and welcome to the second episode of the mini-series of panel discussions on the evolving skill development and vocational education landscape in India. And in this episode, we are going to touch upon a very important aspect that concerns funding and finances, which plays a critical role in scaling and making it sustainable. So let me get started by introducing you to our panelists. We have Dr. Gayathri Vasudevan, who is the Chief Impact Officer at Sambhav Foundation and Chairperson LabourNet, and Mr. Raj Gilda, who is the co-founder Lend a Hand India, popularly known as LAHI, and Dr. Raj Nehru, who is the Vice Chancellor of Shri Vishwakarma Skill University, Haryana. So we are going to continue from where we left in the first episode, which was more about sharing, learning from their insights and their perspectives about the emerging changes. Here in the second one, we are going to touch upon some very key aspects of how these leaders have been able to sustain their efforts and also get the outcomes that they have planned, through lot of sheer persistence and lot of hard work that has gone into achieving their goals. And remember, anything to do with skill development and education, whether in India or elsewhere, requires a lot of time and patience and a lot of resilience. So let's go ahead and learn from them more about finances and funding and related aspects. I would like to now just include this part of the discussion also and ask Dr. Gayathri for her views on the broader context that we see. One is the industry participation. The second is the credit framework that is, being proposed and adopted, and for implementing the policy, which is again going to take quite a lot of time. And industry participation, when I say in the skilling ecosystem, since you have this 360-degree views of various verticals, maybe you can tell us a couple of things. One is the stakeholder involvement and participation. How does one go about it? Let's say, for example, funding, financing the programs, and how do these government programs work? And currently, do we still have programs like the flagship scheme like PMKVY open to everyone? Because we see lot of changes happening in the ecosystem. Many people ask us, okay, PMKVY, DDUGKY. So we want to hear from you because like as an authority on this. So could you please tell us about this particular aspect, like starting something, innovative partnerships, funding, finances?
There are sources of funding. Today with CSR availability, I think you can structure the programs as you want. You can follow the NSQF. So I feel the interesting thing is the NSQF allows you to structure what you want. It's your teaching methodologies, your interpretation of what is required. See, the way I look at PMKVY and DDUGKY is it's just a funding stream. Is it available to everybody? I'm assuming if you follow the norms, it's available to anybody. I don't see that as as necessarily a showstopper. So you've got to, the interesting thing that they have done is standardized how a center should look like, what is the equipment to look like, what is the curriculum. Now from the curriculum, how you teach is up to you. One doesn't have to necessarily, follow a unilinear method of teaching. Which is where I think the freedom of the NSQF lies itself. If you look at the NOS and the performance criteria, the knowledge criteria, skill criteria, all of the criteria which make up a NOS is about it is actually telling you this is the outcome required, and for the outcome, how do you teach? So how you teach is, to give you an analogy, Montessori is also a school, and it teaches children who are less than 6, is a teaching methodology similar to others which are teaching early childcare. So it's a teaching methodology. So to me, I would rather go answer this question in the I think the question you were trying to ask me is it possible to get finances to do short-term training programs?
Yes.
So well, it's always going to be difficult when you're not student paid. Wherever it is a student paid, and student paid models have largely worked in the IT sector. Up to a point, they have worked in the hospitality sector, but otherwise, student paid models for short term training have been very problematic in India. Um, and probably the reason is because primary education is either state funded or private funded. Higher education similarly goes through the binary route there. So here you have intermediate where you have to figure out how your financing has to happen. At this point of time, there are two methods according to me. One is the CSR, which clearly gives you other than government funding. So
Right.
PMKVY, DDUGKY, the various state government schemes are all one funding mechanism. The other is you have to go through the this route, or the third, which is also possibly interesting, especially when you want to work on shop floors, be it manufacturing, be it services, or when I'm saying services, whether it's technical services or it's back-end sales services, is to look at L&D budgets. Those are also very interesting. Learning and development budgets are also interesting ways of garnering funds for the same thing. I've also found it interesting to look at marketing budgets. You see, everything, in my opinion, has to be, especially if you're looking at assessments and short-term training, has to have an outcome. So, without naming the industry, I will explain what I mean. Assuming there are plumbers and assuming there are hairstylists, right? Now, there are product companies which are going to be there. Product companies are going to want to market their products. But what do they want to market? It's the sale of their products. But for us, organizations like us, what it gives us an opportunity is to actually look at new products, new processes, which you're able to take to your cohort of people. Similarly, if you go on a, on a production shop floor in a manufacturing, there are a lot of new, the whole industry 4.0 is going to transform our lives. Apps are going to transform our lives, so with the whole AI coming in. These are all opportunities with the learning and development marketing budgets that one can actually touch. So state funds, I am sure if you follow the norms, possible to access and use. Non-state funds, you should find the relevance for the paymaster. So the paymaster is going to find value only when you deliver to their requirements, right? Which in my mind is the business model one needs to do. And I think these are all, whatever I'm saying is hardly rocket science, right? It's in our everyday life. I mean, we have 2 men and 2 women in this room. So if you look at our hair and we want hairstylists, you want them to be upgraded in new technologies. Possibly, somebody has to upgrade them. That means it's a micro credentialing. How you deliver, I go back to it, right? That means that company needs to find relevance to you. Same thing with plumbers, right? You wouldn't want a Jaguar or a Kohler to be done by people who don't know how to do. That means plumbers have to be upskilled and reskilled. It's a product, it's a process, it's the, it's a new method of actually dealing with Kohler, for example. So I'm just saying it's things like that which gives you the innovativeness of your ability to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for also giving us inputs on the sources of funding. In fact, putting it all together. I'm sure this is going to be very useful to our audience. Now, from the school point of view, I would like to ask Mr. Raj Gilda, what has been your model, if I can use that word, over the years? It must have evolved in many ways. And also you work closely with the state governments, as I understand, and impact their schools. So can we get to learn a bit from your experience, which can also guide others when they are thinking of innovative models or seeking funding or financial support?
Sure. So actually, Lenda in India's work started with aided schools and not government schools way back.
Okay.
Back in 2007, when there was not a single rupee available for any skilling whatsoever, because the whole skill development and everything came in 2014. And even currently today, there is no funding available for aided or private schools, right? So I think in a way, we got a very unique opportunity to try out skilling without government funding. So typically, in our case, we started with 20% contribution from the school. That will say that you give 20%, we'll give 80%. And then every year we'll reduce it by 10%, our contribution to the operating expenses. And we have seen that within about 5 to 6 years, the schools are able to meet majority of the expenses. It is either by way of the fees they are able to charge. They always have this extra fee of picnic and extracurricular activities and other things they can charge in otherwise. We have seen schools being able to meet that. Also, we have seen the revenue generating activities, based on what you are teaching. So the schools have been growing flowers, they will do turmeric farming, they will, make carpentry objects, they will repair something, be almost like a community repair shop and otherwise too. So we have seen many schools going that route as well, right, to do that. And as to Gayatri's point, especially for schools, the alumni and the community is one of the biggest source of funding in that in which the school is there, and otherwise if one looks at. In fact, we have been also making representation to the government, Madhuri, similar to ATL, Atal Tinkering Labs, where one-time funding was provided to privately rated schools, right, to set up the labs and other things too, with some, process and application process and otherwise. Maybe that will be needed for, universalization of skill education as well. That, you come up with some sort of a one-time funding for the school, because what schools don't have is to set up the lab, right? Lab setup karna hai, that one-time expense which I need to make, what if it doesn't work? So if that is some way which can be provided, the recurring expense probably the schools should be able to sort of, take care of based on fees and, other things which they may have, right, in the process. In terms of working with the state government, I think the scheme of vocationalization of school education within Samagra Shiksha has been the main vehicle to sort of go through. But then the issue is कि इतने सालों के बाद अभी 10 साल हो गए उस स्कीम को, और अभी तक हम 15,000 स्कूलों में हैं. After 10 years, we are in 15,000 schools, right? And there are, including private aided, there are about 200,000 schools in India. So obviously, and we all know that government resources are not going to increase. In fact, of funding, that's a reality. Whatever this campaign may say and otherwise, the resources availability on the ground is always scarce, right? So I think what is needing to happen, Madhuri, is going to be how do we reduce the cost of providing skill education in the school, right? Otherwise, setting up huge lab, having a full-time trainer and all that can be only in case of government scheme, right? No aided or private school will be able to do that. So rethinking the norms around, can I run the course with a toolkit? Can I have a geek-based, a trainer so that I'm paying like a guest lectures, to them. We have been also doing this whole skills on wheels so that, the same infrastructure can be utilized by a variety of, multiple schools. Or especially in the urban areas where the schools are in more density, is there a hub and spoke model which can be sort of, introduced, right? So I think in terms of financing is a huge issue actually, because government खुद के school को ही cover नहीं कर रही है. तो, how are we going to get the aided and private schools where there is no funding available as of today, right? I think the second part which you have been working on, very happy to share, Madhuri, is that whole multi-sectoral approach, especially up to grade 10 in that. The idea being that skill education should give me opportunity to explore, opportunity to try out many things. And in fact, even, understand what I don't like, because actually that is also equally important as what I like knowing. So I'm glad that in the National Curricular Framework now, in grade 9th and 10th, the students are supposed to undergo 6 sectors, right? And then choose one of them going forward in other things too. So I think both of these things have been very, very critical from the school experience point of view.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Gilda, for sharing your experience and also a few suggestions for our audience from the school perspective, especially in the backdrop of NEP, and also we are talking about vocationalization of school education. So I think these points are even more important. Let me ask Dr. Raj Nehru, sir, in your, from your experience and all the work that is happening at Sri Vishwakarma Skill University, I would like to ask you 2 or 3 important points. Again, one of them is concerning the financial part. How do you sustain these courses? What is it that the students pay? Are they subsidized, etc.? And how do you get industry, participation beyond just the curriculum or the kind of expertise? Is there any financial support also that you get from the industry? And third and most important point is, again, regarding the employability aspect. Like when we talk about higher education, especially let's say in colleges like engineering and all, placement becomes a very big, it's like a matter of pride, okay, where they are getting placed. So would you like to tell us a bit around these things, how you manage this at SVSU?
Sure. So 3 parts to your question. Institutional funding, industry support beyond curriculum development, and employability.
Right.
So let me answer this way. My personal experience in last 9 years is that, number one, the institutional innovation in the context that is specific to the skill education that we are into. So context-specific institutional innovation is very, very important for an institution to really grow. And number 2 is the winning market credibility, especially when you have so many established institutions in the country and you are a new institution and you have to establish and create a space for yourself, and not only a space, but also win a credibility among the stakeholders where your students or your output has to go. So these are 2 very important aspects for us to make sure that we not only do well, not only we grow, but also sustain for the longer duration. So given that we are a government institution, we get some component of funding from the government because it's the government's responsibility. But I am not sure whether most of you know that the funding pipeline has been shrinking in last couple of years when it comes to funding of the government institutions. So institutions have to generate their own ways of finances, and one of the component is the fee. But given that being a government university, we do not charge much. We are today charging just 25% of the total expenditure that we are incurring into our education. For example, if I have a cost of 1 lakh rupees on a student in a year, I'm only charging 25,000 rupees on an average from a student. So how do I generate the rest of the funding? So in our university, besides engaging industry into the curriculum development, what we are doing is that we are picking up projects with industry. We are picking up small assignments with industry. And because our faculties are mandated to spend 2 weeks in industry, they develop continuous relationship at the shop floor level, at the corporate level with the industry. And that gives them an advantage to have conversation with the industry and pick up the projects. So a couple of projects we have picked up with a couple of industries. These are in the form of some consulting assignments, and that's one source of income that we are generating in university. Second is that I'm sure you saw the campus and you saw the couple of centers that we have developed in the campus. These centers in the day operate as the skilling centers, but after 5 o'clock, we are offering these centers as a manufacturing hubs for the local industry, the industry partners that we have. So we have a couple of industries right now who want to make a batch of samples or some products, or who want to make some kind of who want to do some kind of their testings at our campus, and they pay for us for that. So that's another area that we are exploring. It's like a factory inside the campus, the corporate inside the campus that we have created. The third aspect is But what we are doing is, in Haryana, at least what we have done, we have approached to all the government departments who have been engaging PMUs. And through those PMUs, they get a lot of work done and they pay huge amount of money to them. But that is an area where our university in last 4 years has done a significant advancement, and we have got right now around 9 departments with whom we do a lot and big projects in the state. Besides this, we have certain agreements with certain industries on PPP model, where they are putting up some investments, maybe in the area of drone. And the last is setting up a Section 8 company in the university. We have a Skill Innovators Foundation set up under Section 8. And in last 2 years, we have done a significant work working closely with industries and PSUs for generating CSR funds in the field of entrepreneurship development, in the field of setting up certain labs and bringing in certain equipments. Or we also have a couple of companies now sponsoring scholarships for our students. So that also becomes a method of generating certain funds in the institution. And given that we are not only a higher education institution, we are a skill school approved by the Central Board of School Education, where vocational education is mandatorily integrated in a flexible and choice-based model, right from class 9th, where the target is to take it to the class nursery in next 10 years. But right now from class 9, which is the skill innovator feeder model school that's operating in the institution, that is helping us to build that overall credibility for us as we grow. And I'm sure in next 5-10 years, this institution by 2030 has targeted, we don't need government funds. We should be on our own and we should become self-sustainable.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. That's really inspiring. As a case study also of the university, I'm sure others will pick up very important points from here. In this episode, you just heard our panelists discuss few very important aspects of financial support and funding for all the programs that they have been successfully executing in their institutions and organizations. It was quite a lot of learning for all of us as they went into the details and shared their experience, and all the hard work that went in was quite inspiring, right? So if this was useful to you, and if you wish to keep getting regular updates about our videos and conversations, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any update from us. And in case you wish to share any feedback or any reactions or responses to the discussions that we have been having in these series, please share them in the comments, or you can write into us at contact@nationalskillsnetwork.com. We look forward to hearing you and also to learn from the experiences that you have had. Thank you so much, and I look forward to having you in the next episode.